road is long. But with the steel, chrome, and sweet sound of my Harley, the longer, the better. I'm Sean Maddock, and I've been riding for years on and off the screen. And for my whole life, I've had a passion for Harley-Davidsons. Today, I'll be test riding the newest member of the Softail family, the Rocker and the Rocker C. These new models continue the Softail tradition with the hidden suspension that preserves the clean lines and the twin counterbalance motor that is rigid mounted to the frame. With 105 years of Harley-Davidson experience, you can't help but feel the pride and authenticity that comes with owning one of these true, original American customs. Riding solo is one thing, but there's nothing like the camaraderie of riding in a pack. The friends I'll be riding with gathered at Bartell's Harley-Davidson in Marina del Rey. This dealership is a landmark in Southern California, and people travel from all over the country just to visit and buy Harleys. While the group got to know each other, Bill Davidson, motor company namesake, shared his personal story about how his father, Willie G., taught him how to ride at the age of 6.
He decided that I could handle it by myself, so he kind of steps off the back of the bike. And I will never ever forget that second, because it was just an adrenaline rush of this sense of control and freedom. And as a 6-year-old, it was like overwhelming. And I had this huge grin on my face, like, wow, this is awesome.
Although it's a diverse bunch, all share one thing: the love for the open road. Natalie Jackson, a professional supermoto racer, will be on the new Fat Boy. This bike became an instant classic in 1990 when it was introduced with its solid trademark wheels, shotgun exhaust, and wide front end. Kullan Derman, a service rider for Bartell's, will be on the latest Softail Custom. With many of the original styling cues from the past, this is the bike most people envision when they think Harley-Davidson. Louis Allegria, an old riding buddy of mine, gets to carve up the road on a 2008 Night Train. It's the blacked out motor and components that make it stand out from the pack. Harley-Davidson's Scott Beck will be hitting the highway on the brand new 2008 105th Anniversary Edition Heritage. This limited edition classic features a custom two-tone copper and black paint scheme, a matching inlay custom seat, a one-of-a-kind signature Harley-Davidson tank emblem, and each one is individually numbered. Bill will be sporting the brand new Rocker, which he is definitely proud of.
This is a bold move by Harley-Davidson to raise the bar with our custom premium motorcycles. It's extreme, it's got a great presence, the look of the motorcycle, and what's so fabulous about it is it really works. Going down the highway, the ride on this motorcycle is fabulous.
As I pulled in the Bartell's on my Rocker C, the chromed out version of the bike Bill was showing off, I couldn't wait to say hi and get on the road.
I got an amazing ride in store for you guys today. First, we're going to take a cruise up the Pacific Coast Highway, then go into the hills surrounding Los Angeles, and finally ride these bad boys straight into the heart of Hollywood. How's that sound? Nice. So let's saddle up and go.
Don't go away. Our group takes a ride up the famous Pacific Coast Highway and meets the legend himself, Willie G. Davidson, when Test Ride returns. Welcome back to Test Ride. Bill Davidson and I have taken the lead up the Pacific Coast Highway on Harley's new Rocker and Rocker C Softails.
Hey Bill, these things ride like a dream. I mean, I'm looking over and it looks like you're on a hardtail, but I know it's not from the smooth ride I'm getting right here.
The Rocker is made up with a 38-degree front fork and a 240 rear tire. The hidden suspension, it's just a great package, and the formula really works to give the rider a comfortable ride like we're experiencing right now.
It's got a nice neutral characteristic in the handling department.
That was one of the neatest things when I was involved with testing this during the development. I could not believe how this motorcycle worked the first time I rode it.
Tell me a little about what goes into designing and launching a new model like the Rocker. I mean, what does it take to get it from paper to actual steel, chrome, and rubber on the road?
Well, we have a really elaborate process working with our, what we call a platform team. That platform team is responsible for taking the concept or the seed, if you will, of the idea and growing it into a motorcycle that we feel could be a huge success for the motor company.
Bill, you have a favorite model from the 2008 lineup?
I'm on it.
Our first stop of the day is at one of California's most beautiful scenic spots, Sycamore Cove. There, we'll meet Bill's dad, Willie G. Davidson. Willie G. is the Senior Vice President and Chief Styling Officer for the company, and one of the original 13 people who risked everything and bought the company back from AMF. I couldn't wait to hear his take on these new models.
Willie G. Davidson, how are you? Shawmatic, nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. That's a beautiful motorcycle. How long has this been in the making, from design element all the way to the first prototype?
I guess we've been playing around with this thing for about 4 years. A motorcycle is a combination of art and science. And we wanted something that looked good, but also worked well.
What are some of the elements that it shares with the rest of the Softail family?
Well, it's got the 96 cubic inch big twin motor, and of course that's the heartbeat of our products.
I think one other element that's definitely unique to Softail is the look of the no suspension in the rear, and we designed a system that allows the suspension to be hidden underneath the chassis and gives it that classic clean line from the steering head all the way back to the rear axle.
So you get the look of a hardtail custom with the wide rear tire, but the comfort of suspension, very nice. And touching on the rear section of the bike, I know last year you guys came out with a 200 section tire, which was a pretty big deal. Now in these Rockers, it's got these monster 240s. Now, how did that come about in the design element?
Well, what the Rocker is minimal sheet metal, relatively small fenders on a large tire with tight clearance. And we tried to take some of the negatives that were going on with these extreme customs and make it more of a rideable vehicle. I took one of these from Milwaukee to Sturgis this year, and it worked very well, I'm proud to say.
This brings us to one of the things I was dying to ask you about, Bill. Just how does this pillion seat work?
What styling and our engineering teams did is they allowed a solo look, but they actually designed it to hide the pillion underneath the seat. And it's really simple to use. You just lift up on the solo seat, and underneath you'll see the bracketry that supports the pillion. You just fold that back, lock it in place, and then you pull the pillion out, put the seat down, put the pins in the proper place on the bracket, and then just fold it back and lock it in place. Done.
Great design, man. I couldn't believe how easy it was to set it up.
There's a couple names that should be mentioned. Little John Butera, he was a major influence on this motorcycle. And the other name is Doug Clarkson, a very creative young man, very talented guy. So I think we got a winner on our hands. Sean, I got to roll. I wish I could stay with you guys, but I got to go. Have a good ride.
Thanks, Will. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Meeting Willie G was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and something none of us will ever forget. Stick around. We'll continue our ride and get into the nuts and bolts of the new rockers when Test Ride returns. Welcome back to Test Ride. Today we're cruising California on the new Harley-Davidson Rocker and Rocker C. Motor Company veteran Scott Beck was instrumental in the launch of these innovative new models.
What's exactly your role at the motor company?
Sean, I was the marketing platform director for the Softail division, working on the launch of both rocker models for the last couple of years. It's been a tremendous experience.
How long you been riding yourself?
I've been riding since I was 13, raced motocross, started out, been enjoying it every year.
So Scott, what exactly goes into designing and launching a new model like the Rocker?
We began testing the suspension and how the whole bike would handle at low speeds about 3 years before launch. The amount of testing that went into the ride and the handling of this thing was unbelievable.
Tell me a little about the geometry of a long custom, how that makes this Rocker such a pleasure to ride through these curves and off all over the bumps compared to, say, a hardtail.
I'll tell you what, I like the way the Rocker handles up here too. I mean, you can just lean it in, it just tracks real nice, doesn't want to fall or anything, comes out nice. I mean, the thing rides unbelievably.
Yeah, that's a big thing I noticed. I saw that fat rear tire and I was thinking, oh, maybe this is going to stand up a little when I get on the gas, but very neutral, very nice handling.
After carving the canyons for a while, we decided to stop, grab some lunch, and shoot some pool at the Malibu Inn.
So Scott, I was checking out that fender on that Rocker and the thing's just wicked, man. Like, how did you guys actually attach it onto the swing arm? Because I can't see any brackets or welds or anything.
15, 20 iterations of that fender. They looked at every way to mount that thing, but what styling was really after was to get rid of those side supports that you typically see on a fender that's out there. So they came up with this multiplex construction where they take this inner fender and then bond it to the outside sheet metal. And then that's how they get that whole slam tight on the bike look, and it's cantilevered off the swing arm. So that thing hanging out there, you know, it's got the stop turntails on it, it's got the license plate, the module back there. There's a lot of weight. They've done tests that actually has about 1,000 G-forces out there. So it has to be extremely strong.
Fat boy.
Nope.
So Cullen, you had your chance to ride it this afternoon. What'd you think of the Rocker?
It's just like Harley-Davidson going back to the roots, and I like that. That was my first impression when I first saw it. The overall ride in Malibu Canyon is just absolutely wonderful.
Someone's riding off your bike. What makes a Rocker so smooth?
There's a beauty about our Softail unlike any other motorcycle, and part of that is because we're able to rigidly mount that motor in the chassis. And the vibration reduction is due to two counter-rotating balancers. When a piston goes up, the balancer is working in the opposite direction and it smooths the ride out. And that's ultimately what the customer feels is a tremendous ride and puts a smile on his face.
The entire package gets much tighter because there's not any need to allow for a vibrating motor in there. So you get the low seat heights, and the seat heights on all Softails are the lowest in the business.
I think Natalie's about to put us under. I'm starving and the day's only halfway done. It's been great so far. What do you say we go eat and get back on the road?
When we come back, Natalie Jackson gets her turn on the rocker, and we'll meet up with special guest Carrie Hart. Don't go away. Welcome back to our test ride of Harley-Davidson's Rocker and Rocker C. Before we continue on our ride today, we stopped at a studio here in LA and met up with freestyle motocross legend Carrie Hart, who was in the process of a photo shoot.
So I hear you got some time on this bad boy.
Not this one, actually. I rode the Rocker. This is the Rocker C. The one I rode had a lower seat height, and it was really easy for me to maneuver around with the big back tire and the rake. It's very smooth, even though it's rigid-mounted.
Nice.
So I enjoyed it.
So what is the difference between the Rocker and the Rocker C?
This is a perfect opportunity to have these two beautiful motorcycles side by side. On Rocker C, we really applied a lot more chrome from the front of the bike to the back of the bike. Black and chrome motor, chrome handlebar risers, chrome handlebars, a chromed out front end. We have the flame paint scheme, which flows down the front fender, across the tank, and then across the new rocker tail rear fender. The oil tank is color matched as well as the swing arm. Now if we switch over to rocker, the one thing that really makes this bike stand out is the new paint. This is a new satin stainless metallic, and in the sun, this satin stainless metallic just pops. It just gives this bike a presence. And you can see that we used a lot of the satin stainless metallic from front to rear on the rocker. The lower fork tubes, the handlebar risers, the tank console, the powertrain, the oil tank, and the swing arm. The other big difference between the two bikes is the seat. When the bike's going down the road, the passenger's just kind of floating there, and it just helps give that bike a unique presence.
All right, well, that was a lot of fun. What do you say you can get back on the road and do some more riding?
Sounds good.
Carrie, you haven't had a chance to try it out yet?
Let's do it. Let's hit the open road.
So, Carrie, how'd you get your start in competitive motorcycling? Was it motocross or freestyle? How'd you start out?
I got my first motorcycle when I was 4 years old. Learned how to ride a motorcycle before a bicycle even, and was racing a year later. And once I turned 14, I knew this was what I wanted to do for a living, and basically turned pro at 16 and never really looked back.
Hey, I never had you pegged as a Harley guy.
Yeah, I've been riding Harleys most of my life. I got my first one at 20. I've had probably 5 since then. I got a Road King Classic and a Springer Heritage.
Did you have a chance to see the bike from behind, the way the fender and the seat works? Pretty cool, is it?
I definitely like the big fender on. It doesn't keep the tire all exposed. A lot of these bikes, man, they get too long. They get a big back tire and a big rake. They feel like they're 20 feet long, and this thing moves really well. A lot of companies now are trying to go with a fake kind of hardtail look to them, and Harley-Davidson embraces the full swing arm with the back fender mounted to the swing arm. It gives it that floating effect of the back fender on the bike, and it just keeps it more like a racier look rather than try to do the hardtail thing.
How's that rocker handling?
The thing's actually really sweet because, I mean, it's easy to move around. I mean, you can flick it in and out of traffic if you have to. I mean, the transmission and Harleys are bulletproof. I mean, it's been a jewel so far. I'm digging it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to go through stop and go traffic, but it's just a reality of riding these days. So what do you think of these bars? They're kind of cool, huh? That V-bar?
I like them because they don't sit in your lap. Like it's really a comfortable position. I was a little skeptical at first because they felt like they had an odd bend to them, but they're actually pretty good.
You know what's pretty wild about Harleys and like any other bikes? I mean, we're kind of coming from the younger rock and roll area and we're going to the posh part of West Hollywood, but they're accepted everywhere.
Brakes work. Gotta throw a little smoke on Hollywood.
The 2008 Harley-Davidson Rocker and Rocker C make the scene in Hollywood when Test Ride returns. Welcome back to Test Ride. Our adventure is almost over, but when you're in Hollywood on the new Harley Rocker and Rocker C with freestyle motocross legend Carey Hart, you just have to get as much riding in as possible.
So Carey, you got a favorite spot here on the strip while we're cruising down?
You know what, it's just kind of cool just coming down through this area. To be down here riding Harleys, passing House of Blues and the Standard and the Mondrian. I almost feel like I'm on a TV show. Oh wait, we are on a TV show.
Little parts of Sunset Boulevard, a little bumpy. How's the suspension on that rocker for you?
This thing's actually sweet, man. It's like riding a couch. I dig it.
After riding the Pacific Coast Highway, meeting Willie G. Davidson, carving the canyons in Malibu, and making the scene in Hollywood, our day came to an end at Mel's.
All right, guys, we've reached the end of our journey. World famous Mel's Diner on the Strip. Louis, you finally had your chance to ride the rocker today. What'd you think?
Well, I think it was more than I expected. I knew Harley puts out a great product. This thing handles incredibly well. I got a lot of looks. I mean, I was very enthusiastic on the road.
Carey Hart, had a great time cruising around Hollywood with you. Did you have a favorite part of the day or a favorite part of the new rocker?
It handles great. It's fun to ride. It's not top heavy. I mean, it's a bike that you can feel comfortable cruising up and down the strip or jump on it and ride 600 miles. I'm looking forward to putting some serious miles on one.
Natalie, how about you?
My favorite part was Malibu. Well, and I did like the photo shoot, the two up. That was nice.
I mean, it's not every day you have a chance to have the people that design the bike right here riding with you.
You know, come out and hang out in Southern California, do the hills, do the canyons, do the strip, meet Carey. It was great. Had a really nice time.
It's been a great ride with you guys and riding with Carey, and that was a thrill, and so really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, we had an amazing time test riding the new Rocker and Rocker C. I'm sure these are going to become some of the true iconic motorcycles of the motor company. I'd like to thank all my guests, Carey, Kullan, Louis, Natalie, and of course Bill and Scott. And how can I ever forget Willie G? Yeah. See you all out on the road, and remember, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. Yeah. What a day, huh?
Yeah, that was a good time.